Hello and welcome to Navani Lore and Theory video. I'm Shergog, your host, and today we are going to take a closer look at the city-state alliance of Carnazos and how they are related to both Surnon, the Corpus of Abyss, and even more importantly, how one of the 13 heroes could still be alive, and well in this very state, and how all of this could benefit Ainz. But before we're going to take a closer look at any of this, let me quickly thank my Patreons for supporting this channel, as well as say thanks to all users of the YouTube thanks function for making one-time donations. And with that said, let's get to the topic at hand. And let's start at the beginning with the political structure of the city-state alliance, and of course with the core of this alliance, the individual city-states. These are most comparable to the ancient Greek city-states, meaning there's a large city that serves as the political center and houses a significant portion of the population. Through its concentrated military, economic and cultural power, it then controls a certain surrounding area, consisting of smaller villages, isolated farms, as well as mines and other resources along the waterways. On average, each city-state has a population of just around 400,000. Though this is a rough estimate. The largest of these cities even has over 600,000 inhabitants. However, not all of them live in the city itself. The surrounding land also belongs to the city and is counted as part of the total population. And for comparison, the Kingdom of Ainz, before the attack of the Sorcerer Kingdom, and the events of the Cuts Plain, had a total population of over 9 million inhabitants. We also know that the city-state alliance of Carnazos, or Carnazas, as it is now called, consists of a total of 14 different individual cities that have banded together. In other words, 14 times 400,000 gives an approximate total population of around 5.6 million. And if we take into account that there are cities that are bigger than 400,000, it could reach up to 6 million. So in terms of sheer population, it's comparable to the Empire of Beirut or the Kingdom of Ainz. However, due to its internal political fragmentation, it probably doesn't have the same diplomatic influence as the other two states had. The city-state alliance is also deeply divided internally. One might think that the alliance would have good relation among its members simply because it is an alliance and has been united for a century, but the opposite is true. There are extreme tensions between the different people, and on top of that, there are also tensions between the individual city-states. And the support between them is, at best, minimal and only when necessary occurring. And humans in the city-state alliance are also in the minority, although there are individual cities where the human population makes up about half, so 50%, which again is quite unusual given their low population numbers. And the city-state alliance is more of a union of convenience rather than an alliance formed of genuine goodwill between like-minded states, and it is held together by sheer necessity. And this becomes evident in the reason why there are an alliance in the first place. Because when one city is attacked or raided, the other states do nothing at first and just watch how all of this unfolds and how the situation develops. As a result, some city-states have to conscript and forcibly recruit farmers and citizens to gather enough troops to defend themselves effectively. Only during larger raids, where the other city-states can expect that an allied city might fall, and they themselves would become the frontline city, do they send their own troops in significant numbers. But as mentioned, this is more of self-preservation, rather than because they particularly like their allies. In other words, this alliance is not truly unified internally. It's divided into individual cities and further fragmented within each city because there are different groups of inhabitants that not necessarily get along well with each other. And the reason why the entire land, the whole alliance, is so internally divided becomes clear when we look at its history. Unlike the Baharut Empire or the Kingdom of Riestais, both states founded at the end of the war against the evil deities and were thus young and new nation at the very time, and therefore they could grow organically in the following decades and centuries and develop their own structures from the ground up. The city-state alliance is basically the remnant of a once great and mighty empire. But during the war against the evil deities, it didn't collapse, completely that is, because the individual city survived, but as a unified nation, this larger empire was destroyed. And we don't know how this empire looked before, only that it was supposedly unified and that it was quite powerful. And from that we can even roughly draw the front line that must have existed back then, during the war against the evil deities. We know that the Dwarven Kingdom lost its capital and that the Empire and the Kingdom were essentially newly founded states, just like the Holy Kingdom. And on the one side the City-State Alliance, and on the other, Draudilon Auriculo's kingdom, the Dragon Kingdom, also didn't exist 200 years before. And this has a very homogeneous population, so it is likely that something similar to the city-states also happened to the predecessor state of the Kingdom of the Dragon Empire. So what I want to say is, while the City-State Alliance barely survived politically, and even then fell into a century of infighting because all of these cities were just let loose upon each other because there was no overarching governmental structure in place anymore, and while there is still some cohesion among the former territories, the city-states, the population was greatly changed and internally divided by this war. And this alliance also only formed among themselves after again a long internal conflict, and then as a final peace solution, known as the Great Debate. And meanwhile the humans of the Dragon Kingdom survived more or less as a homogeneous unit. They were not expelled or driven away or simply eaten. However, the state apparatus of the predecessor state of the Dragon Kingdom simply collapsed, and in its place the Dragon Kingdom was formed. So the frontline in the war against the evil deities might have been the City-State Alliance, the Dragon Kingdom, and the Theocracy of Slain. And with that we come to the few known characters that we have met so far or heard about. And the first are the Silver Thread Birds, that adamantite-ranked adventurer team that left Emperor Jerknif's state after it became clear to them that Jerknif had betrayed humanity and allied himself with the undead overlord Ainz. And since Silver Thread Bird is also not an exclusively human team, they should get along well in the City-State Alliance. Moreover, they hold the adamantite rank, so they are quite powerful and can look after themselves. Next is Re Christa Cabalia, and she is the granddaughter of Re Baron Cabalia, and the acting mayor of the city of Bilbab. And she is apparently extremely capable when it comes to the administration and management of the city, but is currently under a lot of stress and pressure. Just as there were the Olympic Games in ancient Greece, there's a similar tournament between the city-states that is being hosted in the city this year, so she has to prepare for it, and the accompanying political tension and the potential for something to go terribly wrong keep her up at night. Additionally, we must keep an eye on the foreign policy that the city-states pursue, because after the Empire submitted to the Sorcerer Kingdom, the previously good relationship with the Empire of Baharut has cooled down significantly, and they now view the border region of the Sorcerer Kingdom with suspicion and distrust. And fun fact, Christa and Jerknif knew each other personally and initially had a positive impression of one another, and Jerknif even openly stated later that he favored women like Christa, those who have a good head on their shoulders and are capable, saying she was basically his type. But on the other hand, any sympathy Christa might have had to Jerknif is now long gone, because again, Jerknif has submitted himself to the Sorcerer King Ainz, and therefore currently the Empire of Baharut is more of a threat than a partner to her and to her grandfather Reben, and this grandfather has also been tasked with gathering information about the Sorcerer Kingdom. In other words, they fear this neighbor and want to know what it is up to. And for a very good reason. Not only is the alliance internally divided, with loyalty lying with their own cities, or with one of the many ethnic groups of the individual soldiers, but there's also a second enemy in the east of the country, a equestrian king. Whether he is a half-human with the body of a horse, or simply a rider leading a horde of horsemen, similar to the Huns or Mongols, he threatens the eastern city-states, which must constantly defend themselves against the raids and are under heavily military pressure. The last thing this broken nation wants therefore is a two-front war, and that's why they take such pride in their two heroes, two legendary warriors the City-State Alliance can boast about. One of them is only known as Brave, and bears the same name, and the other is known only as the Dark Knight, apparently the best swordsman in the City-State Alliance. Additionally, he shares his name with the legendary hero, the Dark Knight, who 200 years ago was part of the 13 heroes that defeated the evil gods. If this Dark Knight is indeed the same person, then he is not only either a human who has the same magic right as Rigid Bear's Karoo or Fluda Paradane done to him to achieve such a high lifespan, but he could also be an elf, or perhaps a heteromorph that knows no maximum lifespan. And as a potential witness to the battle against the evil gods, and as someone who has traveled the lands with Platinum's armor, and a player, he would be valuable as a valuable source of information, and eagerly anticipated by a Neuronist painkill. Interestingly enough, Pandora's actor plays a Dark Knight as well, so perhaps he could quietly and discreetly kidnap the original and see what information can be extracted from him, only to then take his place. And even if it turns out that this Dark Knight is merely a fan of the Dark Knight from the legend, similar to how Igwak or the Swords of Darkness were inspired by heroic tales and the songs of the bards about them, and tried to imitate these heroes, this Dark Knight could still provide an entry point into the political inner workings of the City-State Alliance, as a central figure of defense. In that sense, Ainz or perhaps even Pandora's actor could act as this knight to take over the City-State Alliance from within. The equivalent to the Olympic Games will soon be held, the so-called Cornelia. And what makes all of this even more interesting is that there was once a disastrous incident in such a tournament where one or more undead, so-called vanquished specters, apparently appeared among the spectators, causing a mass panic with hundreds of injured and some who didn't survive the event. And since this tournament is also where each city-state sent its champion to resolve conflicts, the Cornelia tournament is one event where not even half a mistake is allowed to happen. And therefore for the host, Kista, a major failure could result in a tremendous loss of reputation and the end of her career as a mayor. So to summarize, undead were present at one of the tournaments decades ago, and there's a Dark Knight. And all of this sounds almost like an invitation to Ainz. Additionally, it could very well be that these undead may have connections to Surnon, or the Corpus of the Abyss, because the identity or true origin was never confirmed. Something that strongly hints at the mysterious corpus, and therefore Ainz Holgon would find a connection to not Platinum Dragonlord, but to Cure Elim Los Malvar, the undead Coffin Dragonlord. So it would be interesting to see what other connections exist there. And with that said, this is basically the entire video on the City-State Alliance, and now it's your turn. What's your opinion on the topic and on the Alliance? Do you think Ainz will get his tournament arc, or do you think Pandora's actor will take center stage this time? And while you're typing, I say thank you very much for watching, thanks to all of my Patreons for supporting this channel, and as usual, special thanks to Ada Daddy Ada, ASK, Bad Guy Ye, Bad Burrito 316, Bezer, Ben C, Brandon D, Chrissy, Crowley 022 Ron, Sia, Crystal Prime, Dead Slime, Death is Mercy, Deathless Dragonlord, Demon Xenomorph 1987, Devin Downen, Ding Dong, Din Pep, Dragonlord Placido Saxophone, Duckwagon, Dunkler Krieger, Dystopia, Dystopia II, Enigmatic Unicorn, Feral Shivan, Guy with That Head, Hector Moreno, Hoss, Huster, Jacob G, Jana B, Jason, J. Morris, Chromius, Kyle R, Lee K. Long, Legendarius, Lelouch V. Britannia with a Mustache, Lexus Fox, Lord Nishikian Rai, Lord Touch Me, Loverazer, Merovec, Mr. Shoes, Mr. Tweaker, Michael R, Michael Y, Nope, Oh Hell No, Normal Toad, O'Kill, Overlord General Gasper, Paddy Pantum, Personage, Ruru, Primus 11, Rhinomere, Cune Caracos P, Shergox's Daddy, Shadow Lightning Wolf, Shrine Keeper, Sir Axolotl, Super Tier Magic Batista Bomb, Supreme Cheese, Staris, Ted, Texas Deer, Diorg Warboss, Rock Ed Smasher, T.E. Wang, Vash Hawkeye, Vegito 27, Venture Fanatic, Wilhelm, Zinukai, and Sonagon. Thanks guys. Anyway, have a nice day, and I hope to see you all again soon on my next video.